Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? This particular video, as you must have seen from the thumbnail, I will cover something a bit different. Normally in my videos, I have covered things to do in your application or in your journey with Alberta PNP. But in this particular video, I will cover few things that you should never do or you should avoid doing in order to be a successful candidate, plus to avoid as much as frustration as possible. Okay, so let me take you through all those points, and in my opinion the last point I covered in this list is the most important, so keep watching till the end. Okay, so the first thing, let's get started with the basics minimum. The worst mistake or the first mistake you can do in your application process with Alberta Advantage is not checking the eligibility. So if you look at the page that I'm right now displaying, it has all the details of all the streams that is being operated by Alberta. So make sure you go through all these information one by one. Make sure you understand what is the eligibility requirement. You must aim to satisfy 100% of all the eligibility requirements. Only then you can be confident of having a successful application with Alberta PNP. Given that Alberta PNP is now a draw-based PNP, accuracy of information, eligibility is that much important. So make sure you have that clarity in your mind that whether I'm qualifying for one stream, two stream, because what I have seen is that based on your profile, at many times you might be qualified for multiple streams, right? So get that clarity in your mind, right? Say I'm just giving an example. Say you are targeting a rural renewal stream, right? But based on your profile, you might be eligible for AOS, or based on your NOC and NAICS, you might be eligible for the express entry or the tech pathway. So it will depend on your profile. So don't close your mind as to the eligibility. There are not many options anyways. I have made a lot of videos on the eligibility requirements and trying to get a proper fit for your profile. Have a look at those videos. You will get a lot of help. If you still have questions, reach out to me in the comments and I will try my best to answer that. So that is the worst mistake you can do, is not checking eligibility. Next, this is one of the top mistakes I have seen many people doing and suffer in my last couple of years of journey, is moving to Alberta without checking the eligibility. Right? Alberta is a great place to live, great place to start a family, raise a family and everything, but you should not move to Alberta without checking your eligibility. In fact, when I was applying for my PR, I moved to Alberta only after getting my PR. Okay, so moving in anticipation can backfire in a big way. I have known people who have moved to Alberta. They initially moved to Edmonton, then they moved to a rural community, and then they have now moved away from Alberta at all. They spent a couple of years in Alberta, and then with all these recent changes and fluid changes, make sure you are aware of all the changes and your eligibility. That is the reason I covered eligibility as the top criteria. Don't be swayed by Google searches. There is this like if you do moving to Alberta, there is this page that comes up very frequently. For all of us, this page is more or less closed. Like it was open for people who have already moved by 2024 of December. So more or less this process is closed for all of us. So if anybody is misleading you in any way, make sure that you are aware of moving to Alberta. If you still have to move to Alberta for any other reason, like for example, say you have a work permit and you just want to move to a place which is affordable, and that is the reason you want to move to Alberta, by all means. But moving to Alberta for PR purpose and without checking the eligibility is a big mistake that many people have done. I will not advise that kind of a decision. Many people have reached out to me also relating to that. Hey boss, that I've already moved to Alberta. I thought that PNP will happen, but now with all these changes, immigration is always fluid, and this is what I have learned from my 20 years of experience in IT industry. Immigration never stays the way it is today. It's a very fluid space. So the rules will change, the conditions would change, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. So make sure that you are aware of the situation. So that's the reason I put my first criteria of checking the criteria ahead of any other criteria. Check your criteria. If you are very confident that you will move, you will meet a stream's requirement and that you have all the supporting documents and everything, maybe you can take that risk, but that is a risk anyways. So be very careful about moving in anticipation without any solid base. Next, the other mistake that you should avoid is incomplete documentation. If you go into any of the Alberta streams, let's say for example you go to the Alberta opportunity stream, you will have a detailed list of requirements. So if you go to the eligibility, you will see all the requirements listed very clearly in this particular page. Make sure you satisfy 100% of requirements. Don't believe in any kind of incomplete documentation. One of the documentation that is very giving a lot of people a lot of pain is the employer related documentation. So make sure you line those documents up. You talk to your employer and have those documents ready. Without documentation, Alberta immigration will be lot difficult to go through. They check all the documents, very closely, and then if they have any further requirement of documents, they will reach out to you. So make sure the bare basic documentation requirements is covered. You will see all these things in any of the page. I'm just taking AOS as one example. So you can see this, the detail of eligibility in any of the pages. Okay. So make sure that you satisfy all the documentation requirements and avoid this mistake. Okay. Very important. Like otherwise all your hard work will go into waste without any result. So make sure that documentation is complete, 100% complete, I would say. Okay. Next, another mistake that you should avoid is not taking your employer into absolute confidence. You should make sure that your employer is totally on board with your application process. He is aware of what you are doing. He is aware of what he is required to do. And in case of any kind of further questioning from Aaip, he should be able to answer that. I'm sure that still Aaip reaches out to employers for verifications of their job offer or the documents that they are providing. Whatever documents they are providing, somebody from your employer should be ready to work with you. I know for certain employers it might be difficult where you cannot find a particular point of contact, but work with your HR. If you are working in a very big company, mostly they will have a HR point of contact who can deal with the regulatory requirements, or they might just nominate your supervisors or managers to do that on their behalf. But I cannot stress enough that working with employer is of ultimate importance in this particular process. Your employer is your best friend apart from yourself. You can submit all the documents, you can submit all the fees and everything, but if your employer is not participating with you, you will miss out on certain requirements, you will miss out on many documentations, and then if there is any kind of further documentation requirements, you will miss out on that. So before even starting the process, make sure you take your employer in confidence and work with them. This is a pretty tricky situation for many people. I know there have been many people who contacted me saying that, boss, I'm not getting any kind of documentation from employer. Employer is not willing to sign certain documents. Very unfortunate. But in that case, try and find a best way to move forward. I would say request your HR, explain your case, and in most of the cases, HR or employers are compassionate enough. They would like to work with you, continue working with you, so they might just help you out. Okay, so very important, taking your employer in confidence. Don't miss this particular step at all. Next, make sure if there is any kind of change in your profile, any kind of information that has changed, be it small or big, as small as changing your phone number or email address, and as big as change in your family status, you got married, you got a child, things like that. Anything that changed in your life should be communicated to both Aaip and Ircc. So Aaip is the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, and Ircc is the federal agency for issuing your PR. Make sure any change of information is communicated promptly to these agencies. Once you have created your expression of interest details might change. So make sure you make those changes to the Alberta expression of interest. If your information with your express entry has changed, contact both Aaip and Ircc. If you want to change for Aaip, you can do it through the Aaip portal. I have shown it in one of my earlier videos on how to make these changes, but I will show it again. So once you log into your Aaip portal, you can always click on create a request, and then once you create a request, you can go and submit a request asking for any kind of changes. So make sure you follow this particular process for any change. Don't leave out any changes non-communicated. As I said, very small things like email or phone numbers, and big things like change in your family status, change in your immigration status, and things like that. It is your responsibility to make sure that all the documentation and other requirements are accepted and communicated to Alberta in due time. Do not miss this particular thing ever in your application process till you get your PR. Not just PNP, till PR. Your conditions might change during your PR application, after your PR application, till you get your PR card. So make sure that you communicate promptly with all the concerned agencies. Do not miss this step. Once you submit your application and your application is in process, the ball gets rolling. There would be time when Alberta immigration officers or their office would contact you via email or phone. In those emails, they will have information about what to do next. It might be a requirement to submit new documents, or for you to do certain things or make certain updates in your profile. If you get this kind of communication, make sure you reply to them very, very promptly. Do not keep anything pending on their response. Right now, they are giving a very, very short window of responding, like within 3 or 4 weeks. So as soon as you get your email, go through that email very carefully, give like 10-15 minutes to read that email. Make sure that you are submitting all the relevant requirements there. So that is something that you should make sure that you are doing. Do not delay response to any of the questions by the immigration team. That is the worst mistake you can do. And after doing all the hard work, you don't want your hard work to go to waste just because of a delay in response. So don't keep anything pending. As soon as possible, submit all the responses. It might be a letter, it might be additional documentation, do anything, right? Make sure you have access to a scanner, a printer. Obviously, if you don't have it at home, make sure you have access somewhere like a library or something, but make sure you know where to go to do these things. Again, They might give you 1 month, they might give you 2 months, or they might give you 2 weeks. So it will all depend on the seriousness of the documentation and the type of document. Like for example, I remember they asked me for an affidavit, and I think they gave me only 48 hours, like 2 days, to submit an affidavit to them. So I had to make that out within a day. So I submitted it within few hours. So do that kind of a thing. Okay, be on top of your emails, and all the responses should be on time. Next, Alberta Advantage Immigration Program posts its regular updates both on its Twitter channel and also on its official webpage. So this is the official webpage where they post all their updates by date. So make sure you come on this page very regularly and check your details. Without this particular thing, you might just miss out on certain important information which might be out there. And always rely on information or changes which are on the official website. There is a lot of trash in online world where you might get misleading information. Don't waste your hard work or time on those kind of information. All the information, as you have seen, I have always relied on this particular website for all my explanations. I have never even relied on a news website for any kind of data or any kind of information. Whatever information is here is Bible for you. Make sure you keep yourself updated to this particular changes. Again, as I said, immigration is a fluid space. It can change anytime, any day. Make sure you have updates ready with you and you know where to go and see your update. So if you are a candidate, I would say come to this page at least once a day and spend some time here. You will not regret. So this brings me to the last point, which is, I think, the most important point, is not to pay for any kind of documentation, right? You may pay for a service if you want, like for example, if you want an immigration consultant to submit some documents for you, you may do that. Even I don't recommend that, but since it's a free world, there is a process, there is a proper legal process for that. Maybe for any kind of service, if you are absolutely in the corner, absolutely have no idea what to do, maybe service can be an option, but make sure you do it in a proper way. I'll take you through the official representative form which you have to submit if you use a representative. Here also it says very clearly, see this section that I have highlighted, you do not need to use a representative to use this particular online portal. This information is always free. This information is always available on the website, and if you follow those instructions, you can complete the application on your own. I have been advocating this throughout my YouTube journey. You cannot pay for documentation. You can only pay for service. So if anybody is asking you to say, is saying that, hey, I will get you a Lmia, I will get you a job offer, pay me this amount, that's a red flag. So make sure that you don't fall into those traps. So these are, so in the latest update from Alberta Aaip, they also recognize this particular thing, and they have issued a very good caution which is out here. So look into this. Do not pay for any documentations. Number one, illegal. Number two, those documents can be wrong, misleading, and since you are submitting those documents, it can get you blacklisted from Alberta. So don't take that chance with anything. You will waste your money, you will waste your chance, and you will enter into a lot of problems, right? So make sure you do that. Again, as I said, services and documentation are two different things. Even if you hire a immigration consultant, or even if you contact anybody to check your documentation, he will depend on you. If he or she is a proper immigration consultant, they will depend on you to provide them the document. They will not generate a document out of thin air, right? They cannot generate a job offer, they cannot generate a LMIA. They are not job consultants. They are only immigration consultants whose job is to help you navigate through the website. But even Alberta recognizes this website is very user friendly. I have done multiple videos on filling up hundreds of forms. None of the forms that is out there is something that you cannot fill. If you can listen to this particular video, if you can understand what I'm trying to say, if you can follow the instructions in English, obviously you must have done your English certification, and if you have a certain level of education, you can very easily make through this particular documentation. If for any other reason you think you're not able to follow the instructions or the English, I would say you should think twice about considering Alberta or Canada as your immigration destination. If you have your basic level of English through, if you can read Facebook, if you can read Twitter, if you can read the website, understand what I'm saying in this particular video, I see no reason for you not to be able to perform all the activities yourself. If for any reason you have to use, make sure you verify that that particular person who is submitting the documentation on your behalf, again, that service that they would provide is for submitting on your behalf, navigating on the website. Those kind of things has to be done through a proper legal document. You must follow this document. This document would have to be submitted along with your immigration application. If you are using a consultant who is registered and who is helping you in filling up a particular application, okay, and you make sure you are paying only for this service, not for any kind of documentation, okay. So that is very important. That is very important. I wanted to explain to you, and that is the reason I kept it towards the last of the video, so that I can drive that point home, that there are ways and means of you to be able to complete the documentation on your own. Okay, yeah, this being a longer video, normally I don't do this long videos nowadays, but I hope I was able to drive some important things into your brain, into your mind, which will help you in your application process. If you have any questions, always reach out to me. I'll try my best in answering those questions. Many people have reached out to me already, but yeah, use the WhatsApp groups that I have. Use those to communicate with fellow people on the same boat. Those WhatsApp groups are always free. I will try my best to respond to the comments on the YouTube video. Okay, so thank you everybody for listening into this longer video. I hope to see you again in the next